I think this is essentially three things at play here. There is no doubt, there is no doubt that the impact of this mass adoption of children and school pupils and now also tertiary university students is going to have a very severe impact on education in terms of in terms of the ability of the schools to remain open, in terms of the ability of teachers to be able to teach, then in terms of the ability of pupils, to also receive learning, and in terms of the willingness of parents to put their children at risk. So that's going to be really very a decisive impact. The second thing is that it's also going to have an impact on the quality of the education itself, because this is going to shorten, it's going to have an effect in terms of shortening, the school calendar and the rest of it. So it means that pupils are going to be rushed whenever we are able, to stabilize the situation. It means that the calendar will be rushed, students are going to be rushed, their teachers are going to be rushed. So the quality of education. Now, in the long term, in the medium to long term, this also has a severe impact on human capital development in the country, and so therefore it will also have an impact on the economy, decisive impact on the economy in future, because the school is where we train the next generation of workers, the next generation of entrepreneurs, the next generation of leaders. That's where we train them. And so that's going to happen. But I think what's even going to be more decisive in terms of its impact, more decisive in terms of its of the fact that it actually poses an existential crisis to challenge to Nigeria, is that it would widen inequality. It would deepen inequality between the haves and the have-nots, because the children of the rich will still be able to go to school. If they can't do in-school learning, they will do online and virtual learning. They will be able to afford that. That's going to be possible, for that to happen. And so you are going to have a huge gap and discrepancy, amongst children who are peers, but in terms of their access to education, in terms of the education that they are receiving, and in terms of the quality of that education. So we are bringing up a generation that would be marked by much greater, inequality, education inequality between them, and that does not bode well for security as well, because then you are also bringing up a generation where you would have some who, through no fault of theirs, have had their education impacted, but who will become bitter because their other peers are actually getting an education. So they will become bitter, they will become resentful, and they become the cannon fodder in the hands of the people who are actually victimizing them now. So that's why it's a vicious circle, and that's why what we really need to do as a country is that the country needs to approach this in a very holistic manner. Insecurity has become an existential crisis in Nigeria.
Can you suggest one way that you think it should be?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. One of the things that we need to do is, this is a time for us to sit down as a country. So there are two things. You look at the human security aspect of it, that's the social well-being of citizens, but you also look at the immediate security, physical security, challenge. And what we need to do is to sit down for all the security and law enforcement agencies to actually sit down together. I am one of those, including the various vigilante groups, non-state groups that are being set up and supported by state governments and the rest of that all of this, you need to sit down together. We need to have a common and a shared assessment of what the security threat is in the country, and then we need to coordinate identify what our responses will be, and then coordinate it. Because the biggest challenge we have right now is that we are pushing money and security resources in an ad hoc manner to address a crisis. Okay, so if we have problem in the Northwest now, we set up joint task forces, every effort is diverted towards that area. You leave other areas unmanned, insecure, and so criminals move from there and they move to the new area. But what we need to do now is, how can we ensure that we deploy the security forces that we have now in an effective manner where they can mutually reinforce themselves. I don't see a reason why you can have a joint task force, but I don't see a reason why you should have all the different law enforcement agencies in the task force mobilized and deployed to the same place at the same time. So you can have a share of role and responsibility. We can say, for example, that the Nigeria Security Civil Defense, we can say that their role will be, we will deploy them to schools for to secure schools, and that they will work together with vigilantes because you can't deploy them to all of the schools, but we work together with vigilantes and neighborhood watches who would be their ears and ears, and that would be their role in this period of security emergency. Okay, then the police, you can see the job of the police is you want to address the bandits themselves, and the banditry, and secure the highways and all of that. Then you can say let the military chase the armed bandits, but we need a well thought out, plan of action where rules are assigned.
Do you think we have enough security on ground?
I think that the biggest challenge we have right now is not about the personnel. It's not about the numbers, the quantity. It is about the quality that we have right now. I mean, of course, I'm saying that we need to recruit more personnel, but I'm saying that we can do a lot more with what we have if they are deployed properly. They are deployed more strategically. They are deployed in a manner that it does not become like you are killing a fly with a sledgehammer in one area and you leave other areas uncovered. And particularly, we should withdraw security personnel from politically exposed persons, from VIPs. There's no reason why a VIP should be going with a convoy of security personnel. Maybe you need one, okay? But and that's what I mean by appropriate deployment of the resources that we have.
Now, in a short run now, what do you think schools should do, or both considering private and public?
In the short run now, schools will need to start actually considering how to provision their own security. And most schools will not be able to do it on their own. So it will require for schools to come together, to band together. So that if you band together, working with the school-based management committees and also with the Parent Teachers Association, if you band together, you can actually say that, okay, for this neighborhood or for this local government, all the schools here, we are organizing some form of neighborhood vigilante watch, around the security, this thing. And then you also have to be conscious about timing in school, the amount of time that you actually spend in school. Particularly for day students, if you are not supposed to be, this is not the time to be organizing extra lessons and extra classes now because of the situation that we have now. But obviously, schools need to take, and proprietors need to take some of these things and start doing it themselves, because government is not going to.
Who is going to take responsibility for the cost?
And that's another thing. But organize first. That's my own something. Organize first and present your bill to the state.
The private schools?
Even for the private schools, because the problem is not that the problem is not the making. It's not of the making of the private schools. This is a failure of the security apparatus of the state. That's why they have become exposed, And it will be easier in private schools to charge a little bit more for security. But for public schools, it's going to be more difficult to charge a bit more except if PTAs voluntarily make, donations. But the challenge really is that we have a government we have governments actually at all levels that have run out of ideas how to deal with this, and they need to start coordinating. They actually need to start working together. It's not just a Northwest problem, for example, kidnapping. If you notice one thing with insecurity in Nigeria, and it's like with the economy and with business, when an economic opportunity comes and it is trending, everybody move into it. So with crime, when a criminal opportunity comes and it is rewarding, every type of criminal gang begin to adopt that same criminal liaison. So kidnapping for ransom, mass kidnapping for ransom is very lucrative now. So ordinary highway robbers who initially would have been content with just robbing you and dispossessing of this thing, they will rob you, dispossess you, and still kidnap you because they will get more money from the ransom that will be paid. So everybody is using that tactics now. And
so private schools should begin to charge for security?
I think that private schools should find a way. They need to find a way to ensure that there is security, that the security something is the security of the wards, of the pupils, is taken care of, and that they go an extra length actually to ensure that they provide some of those initiatives. If they can't get police forces, they should get gas, but they should be on first dial with the police and the rest of that, but which also means that they will have to be paying those police for them to actually respond to them in the time of emergency. So the way we are looking at it is that the crisis has gotten so terribly bad, and governments have been so incompetent that the burden of provisioning our security is being shifted back to us as citizens. And we can't wait. We can't continue to wait for government. I mean, we must hold government accountable, but we can't continue to wait indefinitely for government.
We can't continue to wait for government. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.